Who are the best head coaches in the NFL? Welcome, football fans, to my ranking of the 10 best head coaches entering the 2025 NFL season. This, in my opinion, is the top 10. The greatest coaches in the game at culture setting, schematic design, calling plays, leadership, performance and production. How many wins? How many Super Bowls, division titles? How do they perform in the playoffs, in the big time? How do they lead their team? And adaptability. Can a coach change from season to season? Does he see the full picture? And does he put a team on the field that consistently competes? A great coach, in my opinion, has the ability to make less more. A great coach can take an underwhelming roster and make them better. So let's discuss the best in the NFL today. Some of the coaches that did not make the list before I get started with my honorable mention. Mike Vrabel just did not make the list. Of course, he did not coach last year, so that's a big reason. We'll see if he can make the Patriots competitive in 2025. I thought he was a top 10 head coach with the Titans for many seasons, so he's in the discussion. Kevin Stefanski from Cleveland, multi-time coach of the year candidate. Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills. Pete Carroll, who's back coaching. Dan Quinn, who had an awesome season last year, but I need to see a little bit more in Washington. Mike McDaniel, who's known for his offensive scheme, did not make the list. And DeMeco Ryans, who's gone back-to-back in the division as division champs in the AFC South. Like all those coaches, but they're just outside the list. If you guys have a question about them, put it in the chat, and I will answer. Let's get first to the honorable mention. So number 11, okay? His name is Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell, the biggest thing I can say about him is he is unique. He is an emotional master. This is the skill of Dan Campbell. He gets more emotion, I think, out of his players than any coach in football. He is excellent at addressing the media when it comes to taking the problems of his football team and putting it all on him. He's an excellent leader, a player's coach, and his players want to play hard for him and run through a wall for him. That, to me, is his biggest skill. He's not an incredible play caller. He's not, in my opinion, some incredible savant, but he is a leader of men and he is emotionally a master. Now, that also gets him in trouble sometimes because he can be a little too dramatic. He can be a little bit too impulsive. And that's why he's not quite inside that top 10. Because there are decisions he makes out of impulse that maybe are not better for the team. We saw that 2 years ago in the NFC Championship, right? But you look at the improvement that his team has made in the regular season, the Lions, 9-8, 12-5, 15-2. That's improvement. That's making your team better. He's 2-2 in the playoffs so far. Did have a disappointing loss to the Washington Commanders. No matter what you thought about all the injuries, it was still disappointing. And to me, there are questions about Dan Campbell when it comes to how will he perform as a coach without Ben Johnson specifically, but also without Aaron Glenn, right? Those guys are now gone. So some of his brain trust and the scheme masters of the team have left him. So I wonder how he adapts because he's never really had to adapt. He's just been climbing. He's been pushing. He's been uplifting, right? But he has never had to change course. So that's why he's just outside the top 10. I think he's a polarizing personality who's definitely a very fun coach to watch because he's just entertaining as a personality. He's very unique. So I have Dan Campbell at number 11. At number 10, kicking off the top 10, is Jim Harbaugh of the Los Angeles Chargers. Harbaugh has actually one of the greatest win percentages in NFL history. He is the 8th winningest coach on a per-game basis in NFL history. Basis, not bassist, not in a band. But Jim Harbaugh went 11-6 in his return to the NFL with the Chargers. And I think what Harbaugh is great at is energy, motivation, and culture setting. I think few coaches understand how to go to a team, reset the culture, and rebuild like Jim Harbaugh. He's been to multiple locations and succeeded in all of those locations, no matter if it be at the college level or the NFL level. With San Francisco, he went to the Super Bowl. He went to NFC championships. They were one of the most consecutively competitive teams in football. With the Chargers, he had high expectations with Herbert, still made it happen, got to the playoffs. Now we need to see how he's able to truly reach the elite at the NFL level again, because he disappointed in the playoffs. I mean, they were favored to beat Houston, right? They were favored to beat Houston. He lost. I don't think Jim Harbaugh is a great schematic coach. I think that he's a good coach when it comes to putting the coordinators around him and the right players in his systems to be able to fit and succeed. But I think that he misses, he's not a play caller. You know, he doesn't really elevate in terms of that scheme aspect that I'm looking for in a truly elite coach, in my opinion. I don't think he's super involved in a game plan basis, but he is excellent in terms of culture building, adaptability, player understanding and relationship. He's 5-4 overall in the playoffs, but 0-1 in LA. And I just want to see more in the NFL on his second go round. I kind of just want to see a little bit more. So that's why he's at number 10. Great coach, all-time coach for the NFL and college level success. I just need to see a little more in this next NFL phase. Okay. At number 9, Pops is not going to like this in the chat. I have Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles at number 9. The biggest problem I have with Nick Sirianni, you can't deny his success. 6-3 in the playoffs, 4-0 last year. He was 2-3 previous to last season, I will say that. 54-23, 5th highest winning percentage in NFL history is ridiculous, okay? And he has 2 14-win seasons, okay? 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl victory. Now, what is my problem with Sirianni? What does he do at a high level? What is he elite at? He doesn't call plays. He's not known to be an offensive mastermind. He's not known to be a defensive mastermind, that's for certain. And he can be a little bit dramatic and over the top. So when categorizing Nick Sirianni, you give him the respect for the performance, and he has never had a losing season from my recognition. I think he's been to the playoffs every year as well. But last year showed us a lot about Sirianni in terms of he was able to steer the ship back in the right direction. So I think what Sirianni is great at is, despite losing his way in 2023 and that team falling apart in front of his face, he was able to redirect, recalibrate, and then able to get everyone around him to believe in his message. And I think Sirianni is a great message coach. He's a great overseer of a team. I don't think if he was an offensive coordinator that he'd be top 10 in the NFL. I don't think if he was a defensive coordinator, he'd be anywhere near the conversation because he doesn't coach defense. I think Nick Sirianni is the overseer. And what I like about him is the personality of Nick Sirianni perfectly fits Philadelphia. He feels like Philadelphia. His aura, his personality, right? It's the toughness, the grit, the kind of wackiness that he provides is Philadelphia to me. So that's why I respect him at number 9, but I can't see him as a truly difference-making coach because I don't think he has the ability to take an undermanned roster and make them amazing. He's had nothing but phenomenal talent. So it's hard for me to see him with a bad roster. That's why he's not top 5. Okay. At number 8, I have Kevin O'Connell, who might be like the shocking selection on this list for how high he is. But I think Kevin O'Connell is the one great coach in the NFL that maybe doesn't get enough respect or recognition. He is a younger coach, obviously, 34-19 so far in his career. He has the 15th highest winning percentage of all time so far, and he is the reigning coach of the year. Okay. Now, O'Connell has not won a playoff game yet and arguably was outcoached in both games. But one thing I can say about O'Connell, he's had plenty of success with 2 different quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. And I think this season speaks volumes about Kevin O'Connell. His ability to take Sam Darnold, who no one thought was any good, like, let's be fair, and make them a 14-win team. Like, even if you thought Sam had talent, nobody thought this. So O'Connell is a very good play caller. Very good. He's great on third down. He's great in the red zone. He's great in terms of how to calibrate for his playmakers. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, right? Had a revitalization as well. And then you look at, once he got a defensive coach in Brian Flores, because I think that's the main reason they lost to the Giants in 2022, because they had no defense. So he does need a little help from the defensive side, but so does Andy Reid. Okay. I mean, there's a reason the Chiefs weren't winning before they got Steve Spagnuolo. But to me, like Nick Sirianni to Kevin O'Connell, the difference there is I feel like Kevin O'Connell can elevate. I feel like Kevin O'Connell can take a roster that no one expected much from. Remember what the expectations were for the Vikings last year? It was like 7 wins, right? It wasn't 13. So Kevin O'Connell has been able to take what people didn't expect to be anything good and elevate. And that to me is the biggest number one reason behind why a coach is great. So that's why I have him at number 8. I also love his personality and his charisma. He's an excellent speaker in front of his team, and it's clear that he was a former quarterback. At number 7, before we get to number 7, let's check out the chat real quick. Coach Derek Mullaney's in the chat. What's up? Bills coach chokes every year. Yes, that's true. Max, I'm not sure what you mean by a horrible take. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Lair says facts. I'm not sure also what he said, but Rock on YouTube says smash the like button. Damn right. Smash that like button on YouTube, guys. If you haven't already, it's much appreciated. Trayvon's in the chat. Sirianni, 2 Super Bowls in 4 years with 4 different coordinators. Yes, but all of them were head coaches. Am I mistaken? Every single one of his coordinators have been head coaches. And I would also say that the Philadelphia organization kind of told us what they thought of him when they didn't allow him to pick his own coordinators last offseason. Howie Roseman is the superstar of Philadelphia. It's not Nick Sirianni. He's more of a passenger coach, which is kind of strange. I still give him credit for, like I said, all the reasons I said, but that's the reason he's only at 9. Okay. And also Kellen Moore was successful previously, right? Like these coaches, Vic Fangio is one of the greatest coaches on defense in the NFL of his era. These are not fluky coaches that came out of nowhere. Steichen has proven to be a pretty good head coach despite terrible quarterback play, right? So I don't know. Kevin should be higher, says House. Trayvon talking about McVay. We'll get to McVay. He'll be on the list. Don't worry. John Harbaugh is a bottom 5 coach. He just had a great GM. That's an interesting take. Well, we'll talk about him soon. All right, let's get back to the list, guys. So at number 7, I have Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin does a lot at a very high level. He is perhaps the most consistent coach in the NFL. He has never had a losing season. Everybody brings it up. It's the stat that everybody knows about the Steelers. But that speaks to his consistency, his ability to keep his team at level. He is the ultimate floor head coach. My problem with Mike Tomlin is when it comes to the ceiling. He hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. That's a long time ago, right? So he gets to the playoffs, he wins games, but he doesn't push in the playoffs. Now, not all of that is his fault because he hasn't had a great quarterback. And quarterback is what allows you to push. Ben Roethlisberger, the last time, he was really, really good was what, like 2020? So it's been a minute since Mike Tomlin had a guy at quarterback. So I give him a little bit of leniency there, right? But he is the culture maintainer. He's the culture dictator, right? Like he is great personality, great presence, great speaker, feels like a guy that can mask all issues, all personalities. You give him a guy that's maybe a little bit out of line, he'll whip him up into shape. That's Mike Tomlin. Where Mike Tomlin misses for me is, like I said, big time playoff performance as of late. Even like in the seasons where Ben was in his prime, AB was in his prime, Le'Veon Bell, they disappointed. I mean, they lost to Blake Bortles one year. Okay, that's just an example. But I think it's because he's not the greatest schematic coach. Like he's a good defensive coach, I would say. His defenses are consistently good, but I don't think that he has I've never watched a Steeler game where I was like, my goodness, Mike Tomlin's scheme today was revolutionary. I've never seen that play in my life. I've never watched the Steelers in that way. I consistently see a tough, prepared football team, but I don't see that. Okay. So at number 7, Mike Tomlin, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, guys. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest. But right now, there are questions being asked about him for his ability to push the ceiling of the Steelers. At number 6, I have the other Harbaugh, John Harbaugh. So staying in the AFC North, the brother of Jim, John, has been one of the most consistent coaches in the NFL. 185 and 115 in his career, okay? He is, to me, the ultimate adapter. This is the guy that sees things before it happens, that moves on from coordinators when he needs to at the right time, that hires the right coordinators almost seemingly every single time. He foresaw the Greg Roman move to Todd Monken, right? He was able to let go of a very good defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale in order to get Mike McDonald, who later became a head coach. He was able to move from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson to support a team around Lamar Jackson, a very unique player that we didn't know if he would truly work, although I did, but a lot of people didn't think he would work at the NFL level. His teams are always great on special teams, which is his forte. They're always very consistently tough. They're always very prepared. They're always very good on defense. And I don't think that is a miracle. Even with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, okay, you're going to be good on defense. Haloti Ngata, you're going to be good on defense. But after that, okay, they've still been very good on defense. No matter if it's Dean Pease, it's Wink Martindale, it's Mike McDonald, it doesn't matter, okay? They're always good on defense. Offensively, they've struggled at times because Harbaugh is not an offensive guy. But with Lamar now, they have been elite, okay? The problem with Harbaugh, which is why he's only 6, is because he's underwhelmed in big games with Lamar Jackson, and that is inexcusable. You have Lamar friggin' Jackson. You should be winning Super Bowls. You should be in the Super Bowl. You should be in the AFC Championship at minimum at times, right? They've been the best team, one of the most talented teams in football consistently with Lamar Jackson, and they have not won anything. That's the reason why Sean McDermott is not on the list, or a big reason, but more so because Sean McDermott, okay, this is the difference between John Harbaugh and Sean McDermott. One has an actual Super Bowl. That's first. 2 is Josh Allen has played amazing in playoff games and they've lost, right? That's why McDermott's not even on the list despite his consistent success and his good defensive coaching. Harbaugh's on the list and still relatively high because he's dominant in the regular season, like literally one of the most impressive teams, even more so than the Chiefs at times. But Lamar more so has been disappointing and choking than Harbaugh. That is what I would say is the difference, right? It's kind of a flip with the Buffalo Bills. But I have him at number 6. I think he's a great coach, one of the best in the game, okay? At number 5, entering the top 5, before we get to number 5, just quickly looking at the chat, put Sirianni on 10, okay? It's a debate on who's better out of the Harbaughs. They both win consistently. I think just because John has the Super Bowl, first of all, and he actually beat him in the Super Bowl. And then also, I feel like he's just been doing it in the NFL for a while now, while Jim has been in college, where college, I would say, is just generally easier. If you have a very talented team, it's just easier to win. But yeah, both are great. I wouldn't be surprised if Jim was a better coach like next year or something, like just had a better season. You know what I'm saying? Vikings coach is number 1, best play caller. Okay, cool. That's a hot take, but I like it. All right. Let's enter the top 5, shall we? So at number 5, I have Matt LaFleur at number 5. I have grown to really like Matt LaFleur. I used to call him a nickname that I can't call him right now on Bleacher Report. But not only does he have consistently the cleanest haircut in the game, but Matt LaFleur is also a damn good head coach. 67 and 33 in his career. Only 1 losing season with 2 different quarterbacks. He has been to 2 NFC championship appearances recently. Yeah, he's 3-5 in the playoffs. He has had a couple bad losses and some upsets, like he lost to the Bucs at home. He lost the Niners at home. Okay, but that was Tom Brady and Kyle Shanahan, so I'll give him a little bit of a break. He seems to consistently lose to Kyle Shanahan, which we'll get to, but this is a guy that's elevated a very young roster and has been able to elevate, his quarterback. So you look at Aaron Rodgers, right? Before Matt LaFleur was in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers was being questioned on whether or not he was still good. Does anyone remember this? Like, the Packers were not a very good team. They were kind of average. They're like borderline playoff team before 2020 or 2019, I should say. And then Matt LaFleur comes onto the team, and all of a sudden they go to the NFC Championship, and then they have back-to-back MVPs for Aaron Rodgers. All right? So Matt LaFleur was able to elevate Aaron Rodgers back to prime peak Aaron Rodgers, first of all. Second of all, he took Jordan Love, a project player, and made him a highly paid quarterback. He's also taken, young talents, different styles of players, like guys that, they don't have superstars on offense. Maybe Josh Jacobs, right? And they're consistently scoring points and moving the ball. Right? They never pick receivers in the first round. They never do. Tight ends in the first round, they never pick them. They're actually, most of their capital has been spent on defense in Matt LaFleur's regime. Okay. And then you look at the offensive line performance, which has consistently been very good for Matt LaFleur. The defense has been a problem. At times, I feel like clutch game performance has been a problem, but I actually think he's growing. I think he's learning. I think he's getting better. I don't think the peak of Matt LaFleur has been reached yet. I don't. He is the 13th all-time winning percentage coach as well. And I'm just impressed with how he's been able to boost his quarterback play, and then take command of his offense. I think he's a great play caller. I think he does a lot with motion, play action, yak plays. I think that he is at the forefront. He's a top 5 play caller in football. So he has a clear statement on the team, a clear difference-making approach on the team. So Matt LaFleur to me is number 5 because he's consistently won with different quarterbacks and he's consistently put up offensive production with his play calling. At number 4, one of the greatest coaches of all time, Sean Payton is my number 4. I think last year proved why Payton is one of the greatest coaches of all time. He turned the Broncos around immediately in a season where nobody thought the Broncos would be any good at all. Everybody thought that Denver would stink last year. I mean, stink, like be one of the worst teams in football. And he took them to 10 wins. And you look at what he's been able to do, okay? 9-8 in his final season with the Saints, where he had not good. I mean, Jameis was his quarterback, I think, for a majority of that year. And Taysom Hill as well. You know, they won 9 games after Drew Brees. That's crazy. Okay. And then the year with Russ, after they won like 3 or 4 games, he won 8. He doubled his win record, his total. Then he got rid of Russ, started a rookie that nobody thought was going to be that good. He was the last guy picked, I think, in the first round of the rookie quarterbacks. Nobody thought he was a rookie of the year candidate. And they won 10 games. And Bo Nix looks like a guy. Okay? So not only has he won a Super Bowl and consistently won with the Saints, but then he goes to Denver and immediately turns around that program and continues to uplift his talent. Players like Marvin Mims, Jaleel McLaughlin. These are not household names. They look really good. You know, Cortland Sutton had a resurgence. The offensive line is one of the best in football. Is that because of Sean Payton or is that because of the talent? I don't know. You tell me. Okay. So he's just able to do that, take a team around that's unexpected into a good team. And then I think Sean Payton has a great balance of culture and play calling and scheme. I think Sean Payton is the ultimate coach from that perspective of like, he's a great leader. He's got the charisma. He's got the aura to him, but he's also like a really savvy schemer. He might not be at the peak of his play calling abilities anymore, but he's still darn good. Right? He's not the best play caller in football like maybe he used to be, but he's in the conversation, especially with what he did in Denver last year with all the like screens and stuff that made Bo Nix, you know, go from who is this guy to he's a rookie of the year candidate. Like he really put in an entirely new offense that I've never really seen Sean Payton run, which speaks to his adaptability as well. So that's why Sean Payton is at number 4. Now, let's get to the top 3. And Black Frost says, I think I know who the top 3 are. Yes, Nick is number 9. I explained it pretty well. You guys can backtrack and look back at it. I'm not going to spend any more time on Sirianni. Tomlin is great as a motivator, even though all coaches motivate in their own ways. But what? I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Yes, Tomlin is one of the best motivators in the game. BM doesn't like my list. Apparently, Sirianni is a top 3 coach. I just don't see it. Yes, Joe Smith, get used to the videos, bro. And we also have a Matt LaFleur respect from Kamari in the chat. Damn right. All right. Let's get to my top 3. So this guy, I think, at number 3, he's my favorite coach in the NFL. And I also think that he's arguably been the best coach in the NFL at times, but he's coming off a bad season. And his name is Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan has revolutionized offense in the NFL. He has changed the way that we look at just, I think, motion, the run game, his influence over play action. I mean, you look at his coaching tree and about half the league is influenced by Kyle Shanahan and he's like in his 40s. That's pretty crazy. His record is not as impressive as you would think. It's 70-62. A lot of that has to do with the fact that he took the worst team in the NFL, or the second worst team in the NFL, in 2016 and made them a Super Bowl contender after 2 years. Once he got an NFL starting quarterback, he went from Nick Mullins and Brian Hoyer to Jimmy Garoppolo, which is not some amazing quarterback, but he went to a decent quarterback. He went 60-33 since 2019, and he's been to 4 NFC championships and 2 Super Bowls. Okay. He's also very impressive in the playoffs, 8-4 in the playoffs. Okay. That's one of the best records recently in the NFL. That's far more accomplished than, Sean Payton, Matt LaFleur, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Kevin O'Connell, Nick Sirianni, Jim Harbaugh, anybody on the list already recently speaking, not talking about John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin all time, but like in terms of recently, Kyle is arguably the second best playoff coach as well. And then just the ability to maximize quarterback. I don't think anybody does that better than Kyle Shanahan. He'll have guys like Nick Mullins throwing for 300 yards. He made the Mr. Irrelevant literally into a $50 million quarterback. He made Jimmy Garoppolo a Super Bowl attending quarterback. He's won games where his quarterback has completed like 6 passes in a game. Okay? So Kyle Shanahan is special. He's clearly special. He's had his disappointments. He's had his big game failures. Okay? Some of that's on him. Some of that's on because he doesn't have a Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have an Aaron Rodgers to lean on. You know, I think that is the biggest reason that he has failed in those Super Bowls, right? Like if they did sign Tom Brady when they could have, maybe he has 3 Super Bowls, you know, but I think Shanahan obviously went from, you know, a historic offense in Atlanta, then all of a sudden turned around the culture, which I don't think he gets enough credit for, turned around the team who was an epic failure for a couple of years, and then made them one of the most, you know, interesting teams to watch from a schematical perspective. And, you know, one of the tone setting teams, even in terms of personnel and the way that they pick their team, because he's part GM with John Lynch. So the personnel that they've deployed, like Debo is a player that was never really looked at before, right? What he's done with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, the way that they deploy those players as well. So that's why Kyle Shanahan's at number 3. And I think he could be number 1 if he gets back at it. Okay. But coming off a bad season. At number 2 is Sean McVay, who is technically a disciple of Kyle Shanahan or his father, Mike Shanahan. I have Sean McVay at 2 because recently he had a better season than Kyle last year. I think that Sean McVay, he has the Super Bowl, right, over Kyle, which Kyle doesn't have, despite both of them going to 2 Super Bowls. He does have Matthew Stafford, which helps a lot, okay? But the Rams made that bold decision to move on from Jared Goff and to take Matthew Stafford, or to pick up or trade for Matthew Stafford. That's a decision that, you know, Kyle didn't make. You know, you really think about both guys, and you think about Kyle had the opportunity to move on from Jimmy G for Tom Brady, and he didn't do it. And Sean McVay did move on from Jared Goff in order to get Matthew Stafford. And that's what won him the Super Bowl, ultimately. Now, Kyle ultimately fell into Brock Purdy, but there are questions about whether or not Brock Purdy is truly elite. I think he's good, but is he truly elite? I don't know. But in terms of Sean McVay, 80-52, won immediately with the Rams, immediately turned them around. I think McVay has a very, like, he is like a coach, a creative coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got the personality. He's got the gift of the gab. He's got the look. He's got the intensity. He's got the play calling capabilities. He is a creative coach. He's got some John Gruden type vibes or influence to him, but I think he's a much better version of that, you know? And he's been able to win with multiple quarterbacks. And that's the thing him and Kyle share, is they're able to maximize their quarterbacks. They both went to Super Bowls with 2 different quarterbacks, which not a lot of coaches are able to do, right? Not even Bill Belichick, okay? And McVay has had 7 winning seasons out of 8 seasons. The only year that they didn't have a winning season was when Stafford got injured. That was the only time. He's 8-5 in the playoffs, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 win. Sean McVay, great presence, great culture setter and speaker. And I think he's also a very good play caller. I don't think he's the best. I think he's in the top 5, but he is very good with scheme as well. That's kind of what made him known early in his days. I think he's declined in that department, and he's been uplifted by his ability to lead. Well, I feel like the difference, you know, Kyle is more of the scheme coach, less of the leader that Sean McVay is. So I slightly lean towards McVay, but I mean, pretty close. All right. At number 1, this should be fairly obvious to a lot of people. It's Andy Reid. And it's not just because, like, Andy Reid is all time a great coach, but like right now he's the best coach in the league. This is based on who the best coaches are right now, okay? Like, Andy Reid's the best coach right now. Like, I don't know what I have to say. 10 straight 10-win seasons? 10 straight? That's insane. Every year they go over their win total, it feels like. He has 28 playoff wins, 17 losses. He's 17-4 since getting Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And that has been the difference for Andy Reid. Going from good quarterbacks like Alex Smith and at times great like Donovan McNabb, but you get an all-time quarterback with an all-time coach, and all of a sudden it's the closest thing we've seen to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And I would make an argument that Andy Reid, without his great quarterback, has also been a great coach. Right? He went to a Super Bowl without Patrick Mahomes. He went to numerous NFC championships and AFC championships even. Maybe not AFC championships, but NFC championships with non-Patrick Mahomes quarterbacks. So he established a team that was winning 12 games before arguably the best quarterback in football entered his team. That is a great coach. And then what he's been able to do with Mahomes, bombs away early to evolving and adapting into this dink and dunk offense, right? He's a great play caller. He's an influencer in terms of his, formations, his sequencing of plays, his ability to come up with trick plays and cool little wrinkles of his play calling. And he's a very nonchalant, calm demeanor leader. Just a guy that, very, very cool, collected, doesn't ever get too high, too low. That's the ultimate leader on the sidelines, right? You never see Andy Reid get mad. You never Andy Reid get sad, right? So 6 appearances in the Super Bowl, 3 rings. Maybe he's had some bad Super Bowl performances. I think that's an argument against him. But this is the guy that's in the argument with Vince Lombardi and Bill Belichick and Paul Brown. Like, that's the category Andy Reid is in. Like, you could maybe say, okay, he's failed against the Bucs. Like, that was awful. They got destroyed, and he failed against Philadelphia. Like, that was not a good game plan. But, Mahomes also didn't play well in those games. So it's kind of hard to say, was it the chicken or the egg? But appearances with 2 different franchises is ridiculous. Andy Reid is just an awesome coach. He's all time. If you said he was the greatest coach of all time, I wouldn't really say you're wrong. I'd say that he's in the conversation. And I'm a Patriots fan. So, yeah. Andy Reid is number 1. To recap the list before I get to the chat, let's get to it. My honorable mention is Dan Campbell, the emotion master. He just misses because that emotion takes advantage of him at times. In some big moments, he's just too impulsive. At number 10, Jim Harbaugh. He helped Herbert get back to the playoffs. He reset the culture of the Chargers. Now, can he do more? That's the question. At number 9, Nick Sirianni. The reason he's not higher is I feel he's more of a passenger in Philadelphia to a great roster led by the best GM in football, but he is a guy that was able to reset, recalculate, recalibrate, and point the Eagles to a Super Bowl championship. At number 8, arguably the most underrated coach in football, Kevin O'Connell, the reigning coach of the year. At number 7, Mike Tomlin, the most consistent coach in the NFL, period. Never had a losing season, but he's also never won a playoff game since 2016. At number 6, John Harbaugh. In my opinion, the best adapter that there is in the NFL, but can he do more with Lamar? That's why he's not higher. At number 5, Matt LaFleur. He is the 13th highest winning coach of all time on a per game basis. And Matt LaFleur is a guy that was able to do it, NFC Championship appearances with Aaron Rodgers, and also win with Jordan Love. At number 4, Sean Payton. Sean Payton is, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time, won a Super Bowl with the Saints, and now he just turned around the Broncos, did something nobody thought would happen with Bo Nix, get to the playoffs. At number 3, Kyle Shanahan, 8 playoff wins, 2 Super Bowl appearances with 2 different quarterbacks, the best at getting the most out of the quarterback position. At number 2, Sean McVay, a Super Bowl victory and 2 appearances with 2 different quarterbacks, and a guy that has equal scheme and aura. And then number 1, Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Nothing else has to be said. So that is the list. My top 10 NFL head coaches in the NFL. Checking the chat before I take off. Andy Reid and McVay are the top 2. Oh, all right. I got to wrap up, guys. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. It's Mitch. Like the video. I'll see you next time on Friday. Peace.